He thought he'd gotten away with it. My uncle, the man who carried me on his shoulders when I was a kid, forged my mother's signature and stole our grandfather's land. He thought time would bury the truth. He thought we'd forget. But 10 years later, he sold that same land, not knowing the buyer was me. And that was only the beginning of my revenge. I'm gonna be real with you for a second. People say family has your back, but sometimes family is the first damn knife in your spine. And in my family, that knife came from my uncle. But before we get to that, let me take you back to where all of this started. Before the betrayal, before the forged papers, before the revenge that took me nearly a decade to pull off. Growing up, I grew up in a small, kind of rundown house on the edge of a mid-sized town, the kind of place where the neighbors knew exactly when you took your trash out and judged you for it. We weren't broke, but we were definitely not living the dream. My mom worked at a medical billing office, the kind of job where the fluorescent lights buzz nonstop and everyone hates their chair. My dad dipped out when I was 7. No big dramatic exit, just one day there, next day gone, like a cheap magician vanishing behind a curtain. So it was just me and my mom. And honestly, we made it work. But we weren't completely alone. There was my grandpa. God, I loved that man. He lived on a little piece of land outside the city. A few acres of quiet, fresh air, and a big old porch with squeaky steps that I swear had their own personality. Every summer, I'd stay with him for weeks. I'd help him pick apples, feed his chickens, and listen to him tell the same stories over and over again. Stories about how he cleared that land after coming back from the service, how he built everything from scrap wood and grit. That land stays in the family, he used to tell me. It's not just dirt, it's legacy. I didn't really get it back then. I do now. His death. He passed away when I was 15. December. Cold. Gray. Everything just felt heavy that month. The funeral was small. Friends, neighbors, old men from the VFW who stood stiff and quiet like they were holding their breath. My mom held it together until we got home. Then she cried for 3 straight days. My uncle, her older brother, let's call him Keith, stepped up and said he'd handle the estate. He always had that "I've got this" attitude, like he thought he was the main character in every situation. He talked to people with his fake charm that made strangers think he was helpful. Meanwhile, the rest of us knew he was full of it. But he was family. We trusted him. God, what a mistake. The first red flags. A couple months after the funeral, my mom asked him how the land paperwork was coming along. "Oh, yeah, it's in progress. Just the usual government BS. You know how it is." Then a week later, there's a delay. Another week. New regulations. Another week. "Don't worry, I've got it under control." It was like he had a script. But we didn't question him. Who the hell questions their own brother during a grieving period? Turns out, maybe you should. The notice that shattered everything. One random Tuesday afternoon, my mom gets a letter from the county recorder's office. Just a boring envelope with boring print. She opens it while she's stirring mac and cheese like it's no big deal. Then she freezes. Her spoon stops midair. Wait, what? She hands me the letter. Property transfer complete. New owner Keith. I swear I felt my stomach drop through the floor. My mom whispered, "I never signed anything." And that was the moment everything snapped into focus. The truth. We drove straight to the county office the next morning. The guy at the desk pulled up the property transfer documents and showed us the signature. My mom's name, her information. But the signature? Nope, not hers, not even close. Her handwriting is crisp, sharp, tidy, like she's sketching blueprints. The signature on the screen looked like someone scribbled with their non-dominant hand during an earthquake. Who processed this? I asked. The guy shrugged. It's already filed. If you have concerns, you'll have to get a lawyer. Concerns. Concerns. My uncle forged my mother's signature and stole our grandfather's land. And this dude called it concerns? But the worst part, Keith didn't even try to hide his attitude when we confronted him. The confrontation. He leaned back in his chair like some low-budget mob boss. He said, "Why are you making a big deal out of this? I took ownership to protect the land. You two wouldn't know how to manage a property." I swear my mom almost hit him. She's tiny and usually soft-spoken, but her eyes were on fire. She kept asking why he didn't ask, why he didn't explain, why he would do something like this. He played dumb, acted insulted. Tried to gaslight us. Oh, come on. Do you really think I'd forge something? Really? I'm your brother. Yes, exactly. That's what made it worse. We left his house shaking with anger. Or, in my case, something colder. A promise formed quietly in the back of my mind. We tried the legal route. That week, we talked to 2 lawyers. Both said the same thing. Forgery, hard to prove, expensive to fight, could take 10 to 12 years. And even then, victory wasn't guaranteed. We didn't have that kind of money. My mom was already working overtime to pay bills. She couldn't take on a long, ugly, soul-draining legal war. So, we walked away. But the wound never closed. How betrayal changes a person. After that, something in me hardened. You can call it anger, bitterness, whatever, but it wasn't just that. It was clarity. I saw my uncle for what he really was. A thief hiding behind a fake family man mask. Every holiday after that felt tense. Every time he smiled, I wanted to break something. I stopped calling him Uncle Keith and started calling him that man when I talked about him to friends. My mom tried to move on, or at least she tried to pretend. But when someone steals a piece of your father, your history, your roots, it doesn't just go away. It becomes part of you, like a bruise that never fades. I wish I could tell you that after that explosive fight in the lawyer's office, I magically healed, that the anger disappeared, that life went on like nothing happened. But that's not how betrayal works. It doesn't fade, it festers. And for me, it settled deep, right under my ribs, like a permanent bruise you don't see until someone presses on it. For a long time, I didn't talk about the land, not to my mom, not to friends. It sat there in the back of my mind like a ghost, a constant reminder of the moment I learned that family can hurt you worse than strangers ever could. And the worst part, my uncle acted like nothing happened. He came to holidays, he joked with everyone, he bragged about business deals and new home renovations. He walked around with this smug confidence like he outsmarted all of us, like he was proud of himself. I'd catch him sometimes, glancing at me with that tiny smirk he thought I wouldn't notice, that "yeah, kid, I won" smirk. Every time I saw it, my jaw would tighten, my nails dug into my palms, I'd excuse myself from the room because I knew if I stayed, I'd explode. Life moved on around me, but the resentment didn't. I left home for college, got a job, moved cities, but the memory traveled with me like emotional luggage. Sometimes I'd lay awake at night replaying everything, the forged signature, my mom shaking hands, the lawyer's cold explanation, the looks people gave us, the feeling of being powerless. I'd think, what kind of man steals from his own sister? But then another thought followed, darker, heavier. And what kind of daughter lets him get away with it? That one hurt. I knew it wasn't my fault. I was barely an adult when it happened. But guilt doesn't care about logic. It creeps in anyway. And over the years, that guilt shaped me. I became sharper, more observant. I trusted slowly, very slowly. And somewhere along the way, I developed a quiet, simmering hatred for people who take advantage of others. I didn't say it out loud ever, but a part of me was waiting for something, for some kind of opening, for justice. It still blows my mind how things lined up, because I didn't just stumble into real estate. I ran toward it. Property laws, registration processes, loopholes, title transfers. I devoured everything like a starving woman. I learned how ownership works, how fraud is detected, how properties are valued, bought, hidden, flipped, resold, reclaimed. Every lecture, every internship, every side job with real estate offices. And at first, it wasn't revenge. It was survival. I wanted to understand what had been taken from us and how he'd gotten away with it. But over time, that knowledge shaped something else, a blueprint. Not a conscious one, at least, not yet, but the foundation for something bigger. I didn't know it then, but I was slowly building the exact skill set I'd need to get even. Back home, things changed. My mom stopped attending my uncle's gatherings. My aunt, his wife, acted like we were the dramatic ones. My cousins avoided the topic entirely. We became that side of the family, the quiet ones, the ones who don't get involved, the ones who don't make trouble. But I wasn't quiet, not inside. Every time they pretended everything was normal, the resentment boiled hotter. I hated the way everyone tiptoed around the situation. I hated the way my uncle looked so damn proud of himself. I hated that my mom still spoke about her father's land like it was a scar she couldn't hide. But mostly, I hated that I couldn't fix it. Not yet, but I told myself something that became my mantra for years. One day, I'll make this right. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, I just knew the opportunity would come, and I'd be ready. About a decade after the land theft, I got a phone call from one of my cousins, my uncle's daughter. And let me tell you, I felt my stomach drop the second I saw her name pop up on my screen. We hadn't talked in ages. She never called unless it was important, really important. When I answered, her voice sounded stressed, breathy, panicked. She said, "Hey, so weird question. Do you know anyone who might be looking to buy property around the old farmland?" My heart literally stopped. The old farmland, my grandfather's land, the land he stole. I swallowed hard, keeping my voice neutral. I said, "Maybe. Why?" She exhaled sharply. "Dad, uh, he's planning to sell it. He's been having some financial problems, and he wants to unload it quickly." And right there, that moment, it felt like the universe reached down and placed the opportunity in my hands. I didn't speak for a few seconds. I couldn't. Inside, my heart was pounding like a war drum. Years of tension, bitterness, and anger surged up like a wave, but I forced myself to stay cool, casual. I said, "Oh, yeah, I might know someone." The moment the line disconnected, my first real thought was crystal clear. This is it. This is the opening I've been waiting 10 years for. And I was right. Because what came next? It wasn't just revenge. It was surgical, calculated, cold as ice, and absolutely beautiful. I swear, the second I hung up the phone with my cousin, the air around me felt different. Like the whole room shifted. Like the universe had finally turned and said, "All right, you waited long enough. Time to get your justice." My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. Years and years of quiet resentment began snapping awake, one emotion at a time. Anger, grief, guilt, bitterness, hope. God, it was all shoving its way up at once. But beneath all that, there was clarity. A cold, razor-sharp clarity I hadn't felt in years. Because if he was trying to sell that land, I knew exactly what I had to do. And this time, he'd never see it coming. I sat there for a while, alone in my apartment, breathing slowly, forcing myself not to get lost in the excitement. Revenge only works when you stay calm, calculated, untouchable. So I made myself a cup of coffee, black, strong, sat at my desk, stared out the window, and said out loud, "Don't rush, don't get messy, think." And God, the memories came flooding back. My mother's tears, the forged signature, my uncle's arrogance. I could feel the shaking in my hands again. But this time, the shaking wasn't fear. It was anticipation. Before I made any moves, I needed the truth straight from the source. So I called my cousin back a couple hours later. "Hey, so, about that land, what's your dad asking for?" She sighed. "He's not picky. He just wants money fast. Honestly, he's desperate." I bit my lip to keep from smiling. Desperate sellers make stupid decisions. Perfect. "Can you send me the plot number?" I asked. My friend might be interested. She didn't hesitate, didn't even question why I suddenly sounded eager. Within seconds, the text came through. The second I saw the number, a chill ran down my spine. It was exactly my grandfather's plot, the one that should have been my mom's, the one he bragged about stealing. And now he was tossing away his prize like it meant nothing. I knew I couldn't buy it in my name. That would be stupid. My uncle may have been arrogant, but he wasn't completely brain dead. If he saw my name, he'd back out instantly. So I called someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, a guy named Trevor. Trevor is one of those shady but useful real estate middlemen who knows how to make paperwork disappear when clients want privacy. He's loyal to money, not people. Exactly what I needed. He answered with his usual bored tone. "Yo, long time." "Hey, I've got a job for you," I said, keeping my voice cool. "Quick buy. No questions, no names. You in?" There was a pause. High price range?" "Oh, yeah, and you'll get your usual cut." "Deal." I sent him the plot info, and then I added the line that set everything into motion. Whatever happens, the seller can't know this is for me. Trevor replied with a thumbs up. He didn't care why. He didn't need to. He just needed the money. Here's where everything could have blown up in my face. The biggest danger wasn't my uncle saying no. It was him saying, wait, why is someone suddenly interested in this land? Because this land wasn't special. It wasn't waterfront. It wasn't in a booming area. It was sentimental, worthless to everyone except us. I needed my uncle desperate enough to sell and greedy enough to ignore the red flags. And lucky me, he was both. Trevor called me the next day. Yeah, your uncle, he didn't say uncle, but the way he described the seller, I knew. He is ready to sign today if we wire a deposit. I smirked. Of course he was. That man couldn't resist fast cash if it danced in front of him wearing a neon sign that said, free money. Good, I said. Move forward. 3 days later, Trevor called again, and his tone wasn't cool this time. It was tense. Hey, small problem. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? So, the seller, he asked if we are connected to you. My blood ran cold. What did you say? I laughed, told him I don't even know who the hell you are, but he got suspicious for a second. My heart hammered in my chest. Of course my uncle got suspicious. The man knew he screwed us over. He knew karma would come eventually. He just didn't know karma had my phone number. I forced myself to breathe. Just reassure him, I said. Tell him you represent a small investment group, people who never meet. Already did that. And he bought it. I let out a slow breath. Close. Way too close. The night before the final papers were signed, I barely slept. Not because I doubted the plan, but because the weight of the moment pressed on me like something physical. For the first time in years, I felt empowered, in control, dangerous even, like I was finally stepping into a role I had been preparing for without even knowing it. I stayed up late, staring at the old memories, the pain, the tears, and then I whispered into the dark, tomorrow, it's mine again. Those words gave me goosebumps because they weren't just a promise, they were a prophecy. Trevor texted me. Deal done. Money transferred. Land is under the holding company. I stared at the screen for a long moment. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from victory. My uncle, the man who scammed my mother, humiliated our family, forged documents, and bragged about it, had just sold that land to me, without knowing it, without suspecting it, without realizing he just handed everything back. At that moment, I felt something inside me loosen, uncoil, untie. I didn't cry, but I could have, because after a decade of bitterness, this was the first moment that felt like healing. But the actual revenge? Oh, that was still coming, because I hadn't revealed anything yet. Not the truth, not the twist, not the final blow. And trust me, the reveal was the real masterpiece.
If you've ever waited years for justice, real justice, you'll know the feeling I had that week. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't relief. It was this electric slow burn pressure under my skin, like something was vibrating in my bones. Because even though the land was legally mine now, no one knew. Not my mother, and definitely not my uncle. The universe had handed me a perfect revenge setup, and I was going to savor every second of it. My aunt was the one who suggested it. A family dinner. All innocent, all friendly, all fake as hell. But the timing, God, the timing couldn't be better. So I said yes. Of course I did. And when the day finally came, I showed up early, calm on the outside, fireworks inside. I wore a nice dress, did my hair, looked put together, polished, unbothered. Because nothing pisses off a guilty person more than seeing the person they wronged thriving. The moment I walked in, my uncle's eyes flicked up. He froze for half a second, just long enough to let me see the crack in his confidence. He tried covering it with a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. He looked nervous. Good. Because predators only get nervous when they feel the prey turning around. I sat across from him. He avoided eye contact, fidgeted with the silverware, shifted in his chair. I swear I could smell the anxiety on him. He had no idea why I was there, but he felt something. Predators always do. Dinner started gently. Laughs, fake stories, forced smiles. I let him relax a little, let him think everything was fine. I didn't rush. Revenge tastes better slow. But at one point, I noticed him watching me, studying me, waiting. I think he sensed the shift, the inevitability, but he had no idea how deep it was. Not yet. After dessert, when everyone leaned back in their chairs, that's when I pulled out the folder. Just a slim, simple folder. But inside it contained 10 years of pain, 10 years of memories, 10 years of injustice, 10 years of planning. I set it on the table gently. My uncle's entire body tensed. I smiled. "Hey," I said casually, "before I forget, thanks for selling my land back to me." The room went dead silent. Fork stopped. Breathing stalled. Every pair of eyes turned toward me. My uncle blinked. "What?" he breathed. I slid the new ownership papers toward him with 2 fingers. "Yeah. The land you sold last week? The one you transferred? It's under a holding company that belongs to me." He stared at the papers like they might explode, and then he flipped them open. The color drained from his face. Then his jaw clenched. His nostrils flared. His hands shook. "You—" he sputtered. I cut him off with a shrug. "Hey, you sold it fair and square. Nobody forced you." My voice was calm, flat, cold. The way his had been 10 years ago, when he stole it. He looked around the room desperate for backup, but no one said a word. Not even his wife. My mother just stared at him with this expression I will never forget. A mix of disgust and liberation. It was quiet victory, and he couldn't handle it. He slammed the folder shut. "You tricked me." I tilted my head. "No, you tricked us. You forged documents. You stole from your own sister. I just bought a property you illegally took. You made the rules. I finally learned how to play your game." His eyes widened at that, because the truth hit him. He wasn't outsmarted by luck. He was outsmarted by something worse. Me. Someone he underestimated from day one. Someone he thought was weak. Someone he thought was powerless. Someone he thought would never fight back. He opened his mouth again, but nothing came out. Because there was no excuse, no lie, no spin. Just the hard, humiliating fact. He had sold the land right back to the family he stole it from. And not even purposely. A few minutes later, he grabbed his coat and stood up. "I'm leaving." I raised an eyebrow. "Before you go," I said, "you might want to know something." He paused, reluctantly. "What now?" he hissed. I smiled, slow, sharp, and satisfied. "Since I own the land now, I'm building something on it. Something for Mom. Something she deserved all along." His eyes twitched. "And by the way," I added, "if you ever want that land back, I'll sell it to you." He blinked. Hope flickered across his face for half a second. Then I finished. "For triple what you sold it for." His face collapsed. Completely. He stormed out, slammed the door, didn't say goodbye to anyone. And that sound, that door hitting the frame, felt like a decade of chains falling off my chest. He didn't show his face for months. His reputation? Rough. Everybody learned what he did. People stopped trusting him with anything involving money. His kids looked at him differently. His wife stopped defending him. His siblings stopped calling. And honestly, he earned that loneliness. He built it himself. brick by brick. But the real moment, the one that made it all worth it, was when I showed my mom the new deed. Her hands shook as she held it. Her eyes filled with tears. Not sad tears, grateful tears. "He can't hurt us anymore," she whispered. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt that bruise inside me finally fade. I had taken back what was ours. I had undone the injustice. I had beaten him at his dirty game. And I didn't need lawyers, or threats, or drama. Just patience, knowledge, and the right moment. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet dinner table and a single sentence. "Thanks for selling my land back to me." Looking back now, I'm not proud of the anger, or the obsession, or the years I spent replaying the betrayal. But I am proud of one thing. I didn't become like him. I didn't lie. I didn't forge anything. I didn't steal. I didn't manipulate. I simply waited. And when the moment came, I took back what should have never been taken. Some people call that revenge. I call it balance. If you were in my place, what's the one thing you would reclaim from someone who wronged your family? Comment below. I want to read your stories. And if you love hearing karma serve cold justice like this, hit that like button and subscribe for more true revenge stories that hit deep.